Okay? And I'll show you how the Bible tells us that. They didn't find a baby in a manger when they got there. They found a young child. Okay? So, when Herod the king had heard these things, he was troubled, and all Jerusalem with him. If a king was born, that would crowd him and his dynasty, or should I say dynasty, out. And when he had gathered all the chief priests and scribes of the people together, he demanded of them where Christ should be born. And they said unto him, In Bethlehem of Judea, for thus it is written by the prophet. See, they knew, didn't they? They knew. They made believe they didn't know who he was later when they crucified him, but they knew. And thou, Bethlehem, in the land of Judah, art not the least among the princes of Judah, for out of thee shall come a governor that shall rule my people Israel. Then Herod, when he had privately called the wise men, inquired of them diligently what time the star appeared. When did you first see it? Because they saw it the night he was born. So he wanted a starting point, reference point. And he sent them to Bethlehem and said, Go and search diligently for the young child, and when ye have found him, bring me word again, that I may come and worship him also. When they had heard the king, they departed, and lo, the star, which they saw in the east, went before them, till it came and stood over where the young child was. Not a baby in a manger, a young child. When they saw the star, they rejoiced with exceeding great joy. And when they were come into the house, they saw the young child, again, young child, with Mary his mother, and fell down and worshipped him. And when they had opened their treasures, they presented unto him gifts, gold and frankincense and myrrh. Now, some people say there are 3 gifts. It must have been 3 wise men. Well, no, not necessarily. Just 3 types of gifts. Doesn't say how many there were. And some people say, that's why we give gifts to each other. See, we all give gifts to each other. Hey, they give the gifts to him. Doesn't it seem strange? They say, it's the birthday of Jesus, let's all give each other presents, forget about him. Break out the rum and Coke and the fruit cake and crackers, and we'll have a wild time here. Let's get a little, tip a few here till we're feeling single and seeing double, huh? Right? Isn't it interesting that, let me grab my Bible for a second. I didn't put this on the screen, but I want to show you this. With this gift giving, in Revelation chapter 11, it tells about a time in prophecy where the truth is cast down to the ground. The truth is destroyed, so it would seem. The 2 witnesses in the book of Revelation are the Word and the Spirit working in God's people. It doesn't mean it's 2 specific men, but any 2 men, or women for that matter, in whom the Spirit of God is working. And they're giving a testimony and working in the Spirit. The 2 witnesses are the Word and the Spirit. Now, there's a time when the world rejects the Word and the Spirit to the extent that they think it's all dead now. And if you look at churches today, we're about there. But notice the reaction of the people. It tells us in verse 10 of Revelation 11, Revelation 11:10, and they that dwell upon the earth shall rejoice over them, meaning the fact that these 2 witnesses are now dead. So they think. And make merry, and shall send gifts one to another, because these 2 prophets tormented them that dwell on the earth. The truth tormented them. Now they're celebrating. And how do they celebrate the rejection of the truth, the death of the truth? By making merry and giving gifts one to another. Is there any festival where people make merry and give gifts one to another? You are bearing witness then that you hate the truth, that you hate the Word and the Spirit. That's why you're celebrating, whether you know it or not. You're in that realm, you're going through the motions, you're doing those things. We need to know what we're doing or we shouldn't do it. People say, I don't mean to do that. Well, if you don't mean to do it, why are you doing it? You're doing it because you don't mean it? You see? If you don't mean it, don't do it. Oh, well. So anyway, it goes on to tell us then, they saw this young child, and they gave the gifts, and being warned of God in a dream that they should not return to Herod, they departed into their own country another way. Okay, let me back up one here. And when they were departed, behold, the angel of the Lord appeared to Joseph in a dream, saying, Arise and take the young child and his mother, and flee into Egypt, and be thou there until I bring thee word, for Herod will seek the young child to destroy him. When he arose, he took the young child and his mother by night and departed into Egypt, and was there until the death of Herod, that it might be fulfilled, which was spoken by the Lord by the prophet, saying, Out of Egypt have I called my son. So that it could be said of all of us, he's called us out of Egypt as well. Okay? Then Herod, when he saw that he was mocked of the wise men, was exceeding wroth, and sent forth and slew all the children that were in Bethlehem, and in all the coast thereof, from 2 years old and under. Why? That's what he calculated the age to be. Okay? According to the time which he had diligently inquired of the wise men, then was fulfilled that which was spoken by Jeremiah the prophet, saying, In Ramah was there a voice heard, lamentation and weeping, and great mourning, Rachel weeping for her children, and would not be comforted because they are not. And you know how they did it? I don't like to be graphic, so I won't be, but I'll just tell you. The way they convinced these women to bring their young children there is Herod held a special feast in honor of their motherhood and provided child care for their children while they were in having that feast and that party. And when they came back, their children had all been killed by the Roman soldiers. They put their children in the hands of government daycare. And they came back dead. It's still going on today. If God gives a mother children, that is a high calling of God. That's her calling to take care of those children and not hand them off to some government agency. Amen. All right? Now, December 25th, birthday of the sun god. If it's not the birthday of Jesus, whose birthday is it? And of course we know because the earth is tilted 23.5 degrees, and because it rotates the sun every 365 days, 5 hours, 48 minutes, and 46 seconds, that with the tilt and everything factored in, that there is something called a solstice. Days get shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter, and the ancient people believed it's because the sun god, they looked at the sun as a god. It was dying, slowly dying, 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 going, gone. Finally, on the 22nd of December, it was dead. And after 3 days and 3 nights, it would rise again, being reborn in the womb of the mother of the astral plane. She would bring forth a new son, a reincarnated son. From that point on, December 25th, after the midnight ceremony, the days would start to get longer and longer and longer. And when they started getting long enough, things started to blossom and bloom and produce because everything became fertile. And the witches developed 8 Sabbats to commemorate what they call the Wheel of the Year. Now, the Danish word for wheel is spelled J-U-L, pronounced Yule. The word Yule means wheel, as in wheel of the year. With 8 spokes, the 8 Sabbats of witchcraft. Go down to Madison on the square. How many streets do you have going off the square? 8. Look inside the Capitol building at all the railings there. They got these little fancy knobby things holding up the railings all over, made of marble. They're always in sections of 8, 8, 8, 8. The 8 Sabbats. Of course, as time moves forward, you get into Candlemas, or witches call it Imalk, February 2nd.